class, it's your instructor, Miss Twilly. Please excuse me just a little bit. I'm a little bit jet lagged. I have been in Philadelphia for about a week and for a very, very intensive training that I'm very excited about. But it did make me a little bit disconnected from you guys, and so I really, really think you need this video to kind of get these speeches going. I know you feel lost, so hopefully this video will help you feel a little bit more grounded in what we're doing. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is this informative service speech preparation worksheet. So I know you have a lot of information, and I want you to read this because it tells you what the things are. So when it starts talking about the informative service speech assignment, please read this information, and especially on page 38 and I guess page 38 to 39, it gives you an overview of macro structure, and it talks about why we need to use these pieces, okay? But I'm going to tell you about those pieces while I walk you through this worksheet. And this is the worksheet I want you to actually fill out and email to me. I think I already said that. So let's get started. So hopefully you've already done your 4 hours of service learning. So you volunteered at an organization or some type of place where it has a purpose and it's volunteer work, and you've completed those hours. So the first thing you want to start with is an attention getter. So you're going to say something that's going to get our attention. Think of it as like your headline for your article, your newspaper, so it grabs your attention, okay? So maybe it's a fact, did you know, like a statistic, I can't say that word today. Maybe it's something like, did you know this many animals are spayed and neutered by, this certain organization? Maybe it's a high number. Or maybe, did you know that the Arkansas Food Bank actually feeds this many families? Or, maybe people don't know about food insecurity, so maybe you have a fact about that. That's just going to get our attention. Then don't skip this part. And I want to clarify, it says listener relevance link. Scratch off the word link. I don't mean a website link. I mean listener relevance. Just think of it that way. Listener relevance answers the question, why should your audience care? Why should we care about what you're talking about? So this is something that you need to think about. How are you going to connect what you're going to talk about to your audience? So maybe as students, maybe you can say, if you're doing your presentation about the Arkansas Food Bank, maybe somebody has struggled with food insecurity. Maybe you can ask the question, have you ever gone to bed hungry? Maybe make it connecting. So, maybe I need to listen to this. It also kind of builds off your attention getter, just kind of hook people in and really let them connect to what you're going to say. Your speaker credibility is that you are a UALR Speech 1300 student and you have completed 4 hours of service learning at wherever it is. So it could be, I'm Lisa Twilly, and I've completed 4 hours of service learning at the Arkansas Food Bank. Thesis statement, this is what I want to hear. I want to hear this sentence. Write this down. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my service learning at wherever it is. So if I was doing it on the Arkansas Food Bank, my thesis statement would be, today I'm going to talk to you about my service learning at the Arkansas Food Bank. The end. That's your thesis statement. Okay? Preview gets a little bit more complex. It has some parts. So basically, think of the preview as, this is what I'm going to talk to you about. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you about. Sounds funny, right? So you're going to say first. You're going to use that language. First, second, third, and finally. Okay? Don't be afraid to use that language. And don't be afraid to say I. You're here to talk to us. You can say the word I. It's not like writing where they don't want you to say the word I. So preview is going to be, I'm going to talk to you about my service learning. Then I'm going to connect some communication concepts to my experience. And then I'm going to talk about some ethical implications and principles connected to my service learning. And that's pretty much it. That's it. That's your preview. You're just going to tell us what it is. You can probably clean up what I just said, but make it sound a little prettier. But I should hear that sort of sequential language when you start doing your preview. Don't try to make it frilly and fancy, okay? Don't get fancy. Because remember, I'm the only person grading you, and if I don't hear it, I can't give you that. I can't go, yep, you did it. So make it as clear as possible. One thing you want to take away from this sort of this going through and preparing a speech like this, I want you to take away the fact that you're making it very simple and easy for your audience to listen and to know where you are in your presentation. That is first and foremost, and that is why we do this. So your preview is first I'm going to tell you about, then I'm going to tell you about this, and then finally I'm going to tell you about that. That's it. Then you're going to have a transition. I know these are in here and they're kind of in italics. And italics, sometimes when we read those and we're looking at a worksheet, an italic might mean, oh, that's just a suggestion. Transitions are not suggestions. Transitions are 100% necessary. And they can be as simple as, now I'm going to tell you about what I did. So you could say, first I'm going to tell you about my service learning, then I'm going to connect some communication concepts, then I'm going to talk about the ethical implications of my service learning, and then some communication, UALR foundational communication principles connected to my service learning. Now, let me tell you about my service learning. That signpost language is very helpful to your audience. When we have a conversation with each other and we're just talking, we change subjects just super, super fast. It's at lightning speed. But we're having a conversation. We're connecting with one person. This is very, very different. You are connecting with a whole room full of people. So we need that signpost language. You can't change subjects on us and then boom, we're talking about something else. You have to go, now I'm going to tell you about this. That makes it feel so much easier to listen and go, okay, all right, now we're moving on. You're actually going to say this. So your first main point is, I completed my service at the Arkansas Food Bank, wherever it is, wherever you completed your service learning. Now you're going to see you have another listener relevance link. Once again, connect this back to your audience. Now, we've all heard of rhetorical questions. You can use a rhetorical question. So we may have talked about food insecurity, but listener relevance link. Have you ever driven by the Arkansas Food Bank? It's kind of a neat place. It is kind of a neat place. It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb because it's in a very industrial part of Little Rock, but here is this like extremely sort of green building, and everything is, super efficient, and it's very modern, and it's very surprising. So, maybe that could be your listener relevance link. But think about that. What's going to connect your audience to this? So then you're going to tell us the mission of your organization. The mission of my organization according to. Now, where are you going to put in that blank? You're going to put according to their website, according to a brochure. Maybe your organization has neither a website or a brochure, but you have a point of contact. So according to Sally Smith, their mission emphasizes a few key ideas. And what are those key ideas? What are the things that this mission of this organization supports? Maybe you did your service learning at a church. What does this church stand for? What is the mission of this? And a church stands for a lot. So if you worked for a daycare at a church, what would be the mission of that daycare? What is its purpose? Think of mission as its purpose. And according to something, the person you worked for, that your point of contact, according to their website or according to a brochure, what is their purpose? So it should be very, very brief. You don't have to tell a story about their purpose. Then you're going to say, you're going to tell me a couple things you did. I completed the following service work at my organization. If it was a daycare, maybe you changed some diapers. You took care of some kids. Maybe you helped them build a little fort or whatever you did. You don't have to tell a whole bunch. Just something quick, okay? And then you're going to tell us a quick story. And I know it's numerical. It says 1, 2, 3. Not 3 quick stories, just one story. Tell us one story that happened. So when I was working at the food bank, I worked with people. I noticed I was working with a lot of senior citizens, and so maybe somebody was wearing a hearing aid and you had to work with them to sort all the food to make sure that they weren't going to give out expired food. And maybe you had to communicate, and you realized I had to, speak really loud to this one person, and it was kind of funny. Just a quick story, something real quick. Maybe you met somebody interesting at your service learning. Maybe you actually got to do something exciting for your service learning. Tell us whatever that was and move on. After you tell that very quick story, now for you guys that are storytellers, this is going to be hard. Remember, it's a quick story. After you tell that, then you're going to move on and you have a transition. Remember, a transition can be, now I'm going to tell you about the communication concepts and principles connected to my service learning. That's it. Or if you just want to say, moving on, I'll take it. As long as I can hear that's a transition, we're stopped with that section, we're going to the next section. So, main point 2, you're going to say this. There are 2 communication concepts and communication principles connected to my service experience. That is going to be in your speech, that sentence. Once again, another listener relevance link. Maybe a rhetorical question, something to connect this back to your audience. You are going to pick a communication concept out of your book. These are the pink words, okay? Make sure these are related to your service learning. Do not pick something that makes no sense, okay? It must be related to your service learning and to your experience. So you're going to pick a communication concept. These are the vocabulary words in your book. And you're going to say, the first communication concept is nonverbal communication. The definition according to, and who is the author of our book? So you're going to give an oral citation here. You're going to say the definition according to Lane, Abigail, and Gooch, 2015. I believe that's what it is, whatever year it is. So that's what you're going to say. The definition according to Lane, Abigail, Gooch, 2015 is nonverbal communication is whatever it is. Tell me that definition. Okay? You're going to give an example from your service learning. So you're going to say this. An example from my service that illustrates this concept is XYZ. Tell me how something that happened illustrates this nonverbal, right? Or your concept. And you're going to tell me why. My example illustrates the definition because. Don't forget that part. Then you're going to pick another one. You're going to do exactly the same thing I just did with the first one. Pick it, define it, give your oral citation, give an example, and illustrate that definition. Then you're going to tell us a communication principle. So, communication principles are these on page 23 of your course manual. And those are the communication is simultaneous, communication involves both verbal and nonverbal messages, all those. You're going to pick one of those. So you're going to say the relevant communication principle is communication is inevitable. You can just pick one. Which one fits your service learning? That's what you're going to say. And then you're going to say the definition according to the UALR Course Manual 2015 is, so you're going to define it for your audience. You're going to give an example from your service learning and tell us why it illustrates this principle. Use this language. Say, an example from my service learning that illustrates this principle is when this happened, when so-and-so did this, or when the person I went to do my service learning ignored me, right? If communication is inevitable, you can't not communicate. So when someone ignores you, they're still communicating. So my example illustrates the principle because when you ignore someone, you're still communicating. And then you move on, transition. Now, let's talk about the ethical implications. All right. Now, this is what you're going to say to start off this section. The key civil and ethical communication implications reflect the relationship between communication and positive community change that I observed during my service experience. Now, you're going to provide us some type of hook, right? Give us a hook, right? Something about the food bank. What is some kind of positive community change, right? Maybe it's just the food bank, even just the food bank. So it serves people, so maybe it's creating awareness. So maybe you can ask about, do you know how you can donate to the food bank? Or do you know how you can go and volunteer for the food bank? You know, so make it sort of a question. Hook your audience back in. So the first civil and ethical implication of communication related to my service and positive community change is, all right, these ethical implications, remember those? Those are the trustworthiness, integrity, concern for community. Oh, concern for community. That might be fitting considering we're talking about service learning. So it could be, is service learning. The explanation of this implication according to the UALR Course Manual 2015 is concern for community is committing to practice of daily actions, interactions, and performances of engaged citizens that promote a co-created community experience. Okay, so an example of this implication for my service experience is, so how could you connect your work at the food bank back to creating a practice of daily actions and interactions that benefit the citizens of a community, right? So what sort of things could you, what kind of example? And you can say this implication helps to create positive change because it's pulling the community together, or something, or it's creating an awareness. Sometimes just having those organizations creates that awareness. Anywho, okay, moving on. You're going to pick another one. You're going to do exactly what I just walked you through. You're going to pick another one of those. Maybe it's fairness, maybe it's respect, maybe it's responsibility. Whatever it means and however you can say, this is what I saw, and this is how it relates to positive community change. Then, you can't just leave us hanging. You have to have a conclusion. So, you can say, in conclusion, this is what I actually would like to hear when you restate your thesis. I want you to say, in conclusion, I have told you about my service learning at wherever it is. In conclusion, I have told you about my service learning at the Arkansas Food Bank. I told you, now look at how I'm using this language. Now it's past tense. So I told you what I did at my service learning. I told you about relevant communication concepts and principles. And then I connected the ethical implications of my work with the Arkansas Food Bank. Then your clincher. Think back to your attention getter. Maybe it's a fascinating fact. Maybe it's a great statistic. And you're going to tie it back to your attention getter into a nice little bow. You're just putting a little bow on it. That's all the clincher's doing. And that is it. And you have done basically your speech. Please do not be afraid to use the language. In fact, I implore you to use this language that is provided for you in this preparation worksheet. It's going to help you understand macro structure. It's going to help your audience know where you are. It's going to make your speech feel so much more organized. And you know what? Sometimes it's easier to work smarter and not harder. So, with that being said, your APA references, I don't care how you cite them. I'm not really worried about that. But your first source is going to be your textbook. And your second source is going to be your course manual. And your third source is going to be your website brochure, or maybe your person, your point of contact. That is what your source is going to be. And that is it. And that is your entire service learning speech. When you give your speech, you will be allowed to use like up to 5 index cards or 1 note sheet. Okay? You will not be able to use this outline to give your speech. So just be aware of that. You will have to condense it. And the reason is it forces you to practice. So once you create this worksheet, you actually need to say these words out loud, outside, not outside. If outside helps, that's fine. But say these words out loud. It helps you. Practice, practice, practice is the only way you can get over the nervousness. If you have any questions, as usual, just email me. And like I said, you're going to email me your preparation worksheet. So you're going to open up a Word document and you're going to fill this out. And then you're going to email it to me. All right? And you're going to email that to me by either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll be lenient. And that way I can give you feedback. And that is it. Have a great week.